Good to Be a Martian by Frank Belknap Long. Mother Caracas called, "Twoon, where are you, my darling?" Twoon did not answer. He heard his mother calling, but how could he answer her when he was light years from Mars, fighting his way through a forest vast and primeval on a planet of no return? He heard his sister's voice, raised in triumphant mockery.
"Twoon's playing man again, Momsy. He's upstairs pretending he's a space explorer."
The little brat, a tattletale, that's what she was. Twoon drew himself up to his full height and stared out through the attic window at the rust-red plains of Mars. And as he stared, his fertile and feverish imagination began again to invest the drab, familiar landscape with the colors of an alien world. The flashing yellows and aquamarines of Algol's fifth planet, the desert colors and the polar ice cap colors, newly intermingled on the bright, incredible palette which every child, Martian or human, can evoke at the flick of a wand.
"Twoon, aren't you ashamed? Your supper is getting cold. Come downstairs this minute." "Twoon!"
Foolish woman, Twoon thought. What could his mother know of space rockets, slim and resplendent in the dawn, the hushed voices of men, bearded and earnest, and the comradeship that flowed like a heady wine into their veins as they faced hardships together? Strong, tight-lipped fighters waging a never-ceasing battle against the unknown. He wasn't Twoon on Algol's fifth planet. He was Richard Steele, tall and straight and lion-hearted. Twoon had never seen a lion, but he knew what it meant to be lion-hearted. "Here's a microfilm book for you, Martian stripling. Sure, it's been translated into Martian. Part of our job is to widen the horizons of you kids a bit. There are a few old books among the new ones, and I happen to like the old books best. Literary Sam, they call me. I'm just a whack to most of them." Literary Sam. He wasn't like the other Earthmen. He wore glasses and was almost as thin and scrawny, by Earth standards, as Twoon's father had been. "Here, take this book home with you, Martian stripling, and read it at your leisure. I'm curious to see how much of the sparkle and color and drama and human warmth would get through to a Martian youngster." The book was called Richard the Lion-Hearted, and it had been written by, the syllables flowed smoothly over Twoon's skillful phonetic tongue, Sir Walter Scott. When Twoon shut his green-lidded eyes tight, he could see the great and indomitable Richard trampling on his cloak in the bright sunlight of Earth, shouting at the top of his lungs, "I am Richard, your king! Is there one amongst you man enough to dispute my strength in unarmored combat?"
"Twoon!"
shrilled his mother's voice despairingly amidst the Sherwood forest nights and the shining trumpets.
"I've baked some waffle muffins for you. You like them, don't you, darling?"
Well, he did like waffle muffins. Almost reverently, he folded his mesh-armored jerkin and carried it to his locker aboard the rocket ship Morning Star. He saluted his commanding officer briskly in the passageway, exchanged winks with a pilot room buddy, and walked quickly to the stairwell. A stairwell in a far less glory-spangled world. He called down, "Coming, Mother." Mother Caracas waited for her son to seat himself at the kitchen table before she placed her bare right arm into the oven and withdrew the tray of delicious-looking waffle muffins.
"Twoon," she said, and her voice was reproachful, "you've been upstairs for 2 solid hours." "I was reading, Momsy," he said. "Oh, I wish those men hadn't given you a microfilm projector and books to go with it. If you were a man, the books might not harm you. But we're Martians, darling. Never forget that. If you do, you'll never know a moment of real contentment." "Contentment?"
Twoon repeated, munching uncomprehendingly at a muffin.
"Why do you always use that word, Momsy? I'm not sure I know what it means." "You'll know what it means when you've lost it forever,"
Mother Caracas said, her eyes resting on her son in compassionate solicitude.
"You'll understand then, darling, when it's too late." "What's so bad about being a man?"
Twoon asked, reaching for another muffin.
"They taught us a lot of things, Momsey. How to build bridges and tunnels and houses like this. How to get to places fast, like when you want to call on a friend, and how to have fun playing games, and how to stay healthy with injections of vitamins." "Yes, they taught us some valuable things, Twoon, but they can never teach us anything about themselves we don't already know. There's harshness in them, Twoon, and cruelty and stupidity. Very few of them have ever known a moment of real contentment, and they don't like anyone to be different from themselves, to try to reach out for the kind of quiet happiness we had on Mars before the first Earth rocket arrived." "I don't see why they don't, Momsey." "I'll tell you why, darling. When you've killed something beautiful in yourself, you hate yourself for what you've done, and that hate makes a festering wound inside you. There's only one way of easing the hurt and the torment, finding someone who hasn't killed the beautiful something, someone who's different, and heaping scorn and ridicule upon them."
"Are all men like that, Momsey?"
"Not all men, but nearly all. Even the men who aren't have a little of that maliciousness in them. On Earth there were a few men, only a few, who refused to kill the beautiful something. They were called poets. They were hated so much they nearly all died in abject poverty or were driven to self-destruction."
"Richard the Lion-Hearted was a man," Twoon said irrelevantly. "He was the strongest, bravest man who ever lived. I wish I could be like him."
"There you go again."
Mother Caracas shook her head, her eyes grief-shadowed.
"Strength, bravery, that's all the Earthmen ever talk about. I read a few chapters of that precious book of yours. Do you really think a man like Richard ever walked the earth? The Richard you admire was what men call a legend. The real flesh-and-blood Richard was quite different. He was brutal, cruel, greedy. He trampled on everyone who got in his way, and when he wanted something, he took it. And just because he'd killed the beautiful something inside himself, he despised ordinary men. In Richard's day, most ordinary men were wretchedly different. They went about in rags and misery."
Twoon finished his waffle muffins in silence. Then he stood up and looked at his mother.
"I'm going down to the spaceport," he said. "Literary Sam promised me another book."
Mother Caracas gazed at her son despairingly for an instant. Then she picked up her empty plate and carried it to the sink.
"All right, Twoon," she said. "Some day you'll understand."
Twoon went out into the bright Martian sunlight. He ambled cheerfully over the board walkway of shining plastic, which meandered between the houses with all the resplendence of a quicksilver serpent gliding toward horizons measureless to man. And as he ambled, he pictured himself in a suit of chain armor, brandishing a man-sized lance. He was halfway to the spaceport when the Earth children came racing toward him. He had never seen them before, and the yell of derision they gave when they caught sight of him so startled him that he halted abruptly in his tracks. There were no Martians on the walkway, no adult Martians, that is, and the sight of Twoon standing alone and unprotected seemed to fill the Earth children with an irresistible, sadistic delight. They came romping straight toward him, 2 boys and 2 girls, and began at once to shout at him, a wicked gleam in their eyes.
"Hey, how did you ever get to look like that? Get off this walk, Green Ears, you hear? We don't want you on this walk. It's our walk. If you don't get off, we'll push your face right down into the sand. You heard what Billy said, Green Ears. You're not human, and you've no right to be on our walk. Yeah, Ward Ears, Green Ears, we'll take you apart. And see what makes Martians tick. They have cabbage leaves for brains. Sure they have. Everyone knows that. What do we do to him if he doesn't get off? He'll get off, don't worry."
The boy called Billy had big strong hands and a pugnaciously overshot jaw. He came up to Twoon and drew back his fist.
"Are you getting off, Green Ears, or shall I let you have it right where it'll hurt?"
Twoon recoiled in quivering alarm. A vigorously delivered blow from a human fist, even a boy's fist, could have disastrous consequences to a Martian wherever it might happen to land. He knew that it could, and he saw himself lying dead on the sand to his mother's everlasting sorrow. Twoon had no cowardice in him, but he did desire to go on living, if only to spare his mother the grief which would surely come to her if she found him lying dead in the desert with his chest caved in.
"Make up your mind, Green Ears," the boy called Billy said.
Twoon made up his mind. He turned quickly and started to run straight back along the walkway towards his home. Immediately, yells of triumph, frenzied and malicious, arose from behind him.
"Look at him go! He can't even run like a man. Nah, Martians don't know how to run. They just get away fast as they can by squirming over the ground like centipedes."
"Are you going to let him get away, Billy?"
"Not without something to remember us by," Billy shouted.
The stone struck Twoon behind his right ear, hurling him to the ground. With a sob, he picked himself up and ran on, a trickling, horrible wetness on the quivering flesh of his scalp. When he arrived home, he went straight to his room, took the microfilm projector and Richard the Lion-Hearted to the waste disposal, and let the vacuum suction in the depths of the tube carry both book and projector to everlasting night and oblivion. Then he sat down in a chair by the window and stared out over the rust-red plains of Mars. He thought of his Uncle Tech. With his 4 abbreviated tentacles, mere greenish stumps they were, like the gangrened limbs of space explorers who had suffered frostbite, and of Aunt Gororis, with her bulbous head and stalked eyes. He thought of his sister, who had only 2 tentacles, long, willowy, and very beautiful, and of how proudly his mother had gazed into his own sunken, disc-like eyes when she had tucked him into bed in his infancy.
"A handsome son I have."
No 2 Martians were ever in the least alike, but no Martian ever hated or derided another Martian just because he had fewer tentacles, or a coppery skin instead of a green one, or an extra eye in the middle of his forehead. No Martian ever thought of another Martian as different. There had been no need for that, and no real understanding of it, even. Oh, it was good to be a Martian.